Rest in peace to Jerry Springer, who just passed yesterday. You know, talk about a man who lived a life. Like, a lot of people don't know this, and I didn't even know this for a long time. But Jerry kind of got his start off in politics, and then I believe he was I know he was in the council for Cincinnati, I think. But he got into broadcast television. I think he was a reporter, and then the Jerry Springer show, which I didn't also know was lasted for about 30 years. Because I remember watching Jerry Springer as a kid. Just remember, I forgot how old I was, but I just remember it being, with the fights, like before Maury, and I could be wrong about this, before Maury there was, Jerry Springer, Jerry Springer used to always, have guests on this show, and I believe D. Ray Davis and Corey Holcomb actually was guests up there. They was messing with like some chick, and I don't know if it was set up or not, but it was entertaining. It was like the first reality show. Like, if you really think about it, like the first reality show, because for those of you who is familiar with Jerry Springer and familiar with, the movie The Ringmaster, starring Jerry Springer, Michael Jai White, Jamie Presley, you would know kind of like how that was set up. Because one thing that I will say about Jerry Springer was, again, this is kind of like how Steve Wilkos kind of got known. But, Jerry wasn't no pushover, but he was one of them guys, like, he had racists up there, he had trans up there, and they used to fight all the time, and that was the thing that I used to like, ironically, because, being like a wrestling fan and, kind of growing up in a household where, my mama, used to watch soap operas, and I used to watch wrestling, and I think even like my dad was sports, it was like, that was a mixture of everything. Some people would call it like trash television, but that was like the first reality show. So I think it was one of those things that was always kind of like embedded in me, just kind of like as far as the entertainment, like this is what talk shows are. You had the Jenny Jones, the Ricky Lakes, Montel Williams, Oprah's and all that, and then you had Jerry Springer, which I think that was probably the only show I remember actually allowing, those hands to fly, those titties to fly. So I just want to, send my condolences to, his family. 79. I can only be lucky if I can make it there, because again, Jerry Springer was a household name, and I don't really know too much as far as like what happened after that, but I just did want to take this moment to, give my appreciation to Jerry Springer. Moving forward, it just allows me to also like look at just how a lot of our heroes, a lot of those people that we inspire to, that inspires us and inspire to be like, are, passing away. We had, guys like DMX, who it still seems kind of wild. It's like, still can't believe he's gone. You got Jason David Frank, who was one of those guys in martial arts. He was kind of like, to me, he was like our Mr. Miyagi. For the, like, because again, we have, the Karate Kid and stuff, but like Jason David Frank, who was, I always look at him as like one of the original Power Rangers. Even though he came on later in the season, he was the original. Like, he's been through a lot of seasons with Power Rangers. And it hasn't even been a year yet since his passing. He was 49. But he was someone who was still kind of like doing, like he kind of still held on to that legacy. Even though he was I think the White Dragon, he stayed in that martial arts realm. And even though I haven't seen the Power Rangers movie yet, new Power Rangers movie yet, I heard great things about it. It's kind of crazy. Like, for those of you who just started listening, I'm just a kid from Hampton Roads, Virginia, who used to just love a lot of things. I was into a lot of things. I was into Power Rangers. I was into wrestling. Even though I wasn't supposed to, I like Jerry Springer. Rapping, Michael Jackson. Candyman, like a lot of stuff, a lot of things that a lot of shows and people that I grew up on. As I see them now, and it's like, man, it always inspires me, because it's like when I was younger, it's kind of like to still see people active. A lot of people fall off, but it's still like seeing certain people still doing what they've been doing for 20-something plus years, and to still be relevant and still be pushing the envelope, like the Jerry Springers, like the Jason David Franks. And to see just the love and the respect that they get from their peers and from the fans, it just allows me to think that, hey, keep going. Because I always want to inspire those who are listening. Like, if you have a dream, even if you have an idea, the biggest thing to remember is take your time. Don't waste your time. Because, I was actually, I went out of town today, and I had a great conversation with someone, and just the admirations, the motivation that people have, like, to be entrepreneurs, just to do what they love, is inspiration for me. Because for me, like, again, I'm introverted, and I can be outroverted, what they call ambivert. But sometimes, for me, I don't want to be a boss. I just want to own. I want to be able to manage, but I don't I'm not one of those people that can, like, I don't really want to be telling people what to do. Like, I'm a father. I got, like, my own responsibilities to a young person, and I have to raise him up. And even like with, the other children in my life, the stepdaughters, the, goddaughter, and, even like my little nephews, cousins, nieces, like, I want to see the next generation be able to do what they inspire to do without struggle. In a perfect world, I could be reaching, but to me, I believe that for us, for those of my generation who was growing up in the 90s, in the 80s or whatnot, that we work hard, and, like, we on that borderline. I always mention this all the time, because before, while Jerry Springer and Power Rangers and all these different music video shows while all this was going and striving, we didn't have we didn't even have the internet. We didn't have social media. So the one thing that we always just had was word of mouth. Like I said, I was mentioning, like, growing up, watching Jerry Springer. I remember going to school, like middle school, high school. Like, say, you see that last episode, you seen Jerry Springer yesterday? Hey, I gotta go home to go watch Jerry Springer. Even more sometimes. Like, and then now, we have these reality shows, which is kind of like, I always say it might be like a spinoff of that, because now it's like they're fighting. This is a creative broker, but it's a production. Everything's a production now. Everything's monetized now. And it's like, hey, like, everybody can do it. But not everybody can do it successfully. But I also still encourage people to at least do something that they enjoy doing, that they love. Because everything, like, life isn't promised. Tomorrow isn't promised. Like, you can be 79 years old, 49 years old, 19 years old, or even 9 years old. But, like, if you are capable of actually trying, if you're capable of taking the opportunity, taking the chance, no risk, no reward. But it's like one of these things where, when I hear about someone dying, whether they're in their home, whether in their hotel, it makes me wonder, like, and I say this before, like, man, I got to stop playing, because even though I still have some time on me, it's like I'm just grateful that God has blessed me to see another day and to be able to enjoy these gifts that these celebrities and that these public figures had been able to share with us and be a part of my childhood. Because, like I was mentioning, like, there are certain things, like me as a underage minor or adolescent, child, there are certain things that I grew up watching and listening to that I had no business growing up watching and listening to. And Jerry Springer was one of those things. Like, there were certain things up there, like, but that was no like the talk shows that was on back then. Even though it would be helpful now, I had no business watching that. I was saying this earlier, like, I never even got a chance to get into Jerry Beads. But I remember the Ringmaster at one point in time was one of my favorite movies. Because it was kind of like, it was kind of like the Jerry Springer movie, where, like, this is how things actually is with the shows. Like, you come, we call you in, you might call the show to be a guest, then we call you, you get flew out, or you fly out, and then you let whatever happens. And it's the crazy thing, because I remember on that movie, like, Michael Jai White was sleeping with his girl's friend, right? So that's why they went on the show. And they ended up getting into it, because Michael Jai White, he was like, I don't want to say the first, but he, like, just from my recollection, he was like might have been the first guy character where I seen that on television. Like, oh, that's a real thing. Like, when they talked about Cole, like, and you see when my man, we supposed to be friends, and then he goes off and he ends up, running into Jamie Preston, who was also up there with her boyfriend and her mom, or even like, not even her mom, but she, like, both of them was in a relationship and they sleeping around too. But it's just kind of wild, because it's like, drama always kind of been the entertainment, and then sometimes drama is somebody else's trauma, but it's entertaining. I think the one thing that people don't want to admit is that sometimes when we see other people going through things, it puts us at peace, because it allows us to take our minds off of what we got going on. Not saying that it's right, but that's the truth. I'll be honest, I've been like that. You know, I never tried to guilt anyone from, you know, having their issues and be in their business and say, hey, you did this too. But it's like, it could be a breath of fresh air when you look at these shows and just see just how messed up people's lives can be. And then you get humbled and be like, man, you know what? I'm not doing as bad as them. And I think that's the message. I think that's really what you can like kind of look at and say like, hey, it can always be worse. Because like I say, like I never would want to put any of my loved ones on Front Street and just kind of like for a personal gain. Like if I'm having, you know, issues with you, and if I'm having some relationship issues, trouble in paradise, I would never try to put that on screen for people to judge it. I mean, and that's something common now. You know, we be on social media all the time talking about all our business, and then be mad when people speculate and assume. Rest in peace, Jerry Springer, though, because like I said, he was definitely a pioneer. Because even though, like again, I can't say that it was scripted. I can't say that it wasn't, but it was definitely entertaining. So, you know, bottom line point is, you know, take care of yourself and each other. All right, because things can be worse. You know, do your best to elevate yourself. You know, if you're not happy somewhere, you know, you got to take control of your own life. You know, God is in control, but you have to be able to, like, if God is going to be the driver, you got you got to be the passenger. You can't let nobody else be the passenger of the life. But I always say, you know, Jesus take the wheel, but you make sure you got to steady it. Because God is not that God can't do things. He can do all things. But it's also our job to make sure that we keep that afloat, keep that balance. You know, God doesn't want us to be lazy. He doesn't want us to be dependent on, you know, him for every single thing, because it's like God's going to help who helps you. God is going to help who helps others. God is going to help who help themselves. So that's the segue. You know, it's almost wild. Like, I tell this story every time, like when I heard Michael Jackson pass, I was at work. You know, I can't believe how long it's been. I think it's been over 10 years now since Michael Jackson left. It's still hard to believe. And that's kind of like why, that's one thing I will say good about social media and the now, because those things that those things we wasn't able to witness and see and remember when it was happening, there is some stuff that you will be able to remember, that will recollect to you in your mind. On, like, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Netflix, they'll rekindle certain things. So it's like, to me, I always take heed and be grateful for the lessons, good or bad, that I've learned. And, you know, just the fact of hearing about, you know, Jerry passing away, a lot of memories came back. Like I said, I don't remember. I don't know if I was in middle school when I started looking at him or not, but he was definitely on air longer than I thought. But it was just, that was such a great show, yo. Like, I'm not sure. I know they got talk shows now, but I don't know. Like I said, they got those reality shows now, like Love and Hip Hop and everything now. Like, and because before that, they didn't really have those reality TV. Like I said, Jared, to me, like, outside of wrestling, WWE, WF, WCW, and all that, Jerry Springer was like a reality TV show, but it was just a talk show. I couldn't wait to see a fight. And I think that's probably why I never really got into boxing like that, because I used to always be into wrestling, and I used to always watch Jerry Springer. People was actually fighting. They used to let them fly sometimes. I think after a while, they had stopped letting them fight, but they would fight for a little bit. They really could have made a game out of that. Because, like now they got those talk show, like they got those games, like Family Feud games, and I mean, they had Jeopardy and everything, but I mean, like, imagine now. Imagine Steve Harvey having shows where people can get on and, like, it was like hockey, like you fighting. Like, you can be able to fight and, like, sometimes, duke it out. Kind of almost like Celebrity Deathmatch, where they got the celebrity boxing, but it's like Celebrity Deathmatch where these dream matchups is happening, is to the death. But it's like, man, I remember my cousin just sent me this link when there was a Nazi. He got on Jerry Springer, and he had said something about his mama, and Jerry stepped to him like he won't no pushover, and it was like, man, I didn't remember that, but it was just kind of funny to see. Cause I'm like, look, he ain't like, you ain't just gonna come on my show and like disrespect me. That, like I said, because back then, like, that was like a big thing, like talking about somebody's mama. This is like even before the MTV show Yo Mama, and people talking about putting the chip on your shoulder and knocking it off. Like, you couldn't talk about nobody's mama back then. Like, y'all, those actually fighting words for real. And then I think even now, like, even like certain people, like, I think it's more so, I think now it's more or less threatening, but it was just kind of great, toxic but great, and that was the beauty of entertainment back then. Is like, we didn't really have to worry too much about certain things. I mean, we gotta pay for it now, with our mental health and everything. But it's like, now when you look back on it, it's like, man, this it was almost kind of like therapy. They had people come up there and talk about what was going on, because don't get it twisted, even though it was a lot of drama and fights up there was some stuff up there. Like I said, Maury was kind of like the counterpart. He had like therapists, and there would be like investigators, a lot of tests and stuff up there. But like Jerry Springer, like he had all type of guests up there. You know what I'm saying? Some people used to look at him as Jesus, but really it was just, I just wanted, like I said, take that time to really appreciate, part of my childhood, because, like I said, things are different now. But as always, stay safe, stay prosperous, productive, and positive. This is Blair. I'm gone. Come on.